Okay, welcome to the Land Use Committee. I am not the chair, I'm just the only one here in person, and my name is Fred Chang. I'm one of the council members. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Very well, concept, community development director, Nick Pond.
Join Land Public Business Senior Planner.
As I mentioned earlier before we're recording, the engineer is giving our presentation on the Perry Avenue project is in route and was about halfway through course, so we'll be here in a few minutes. So we're going to jump to the second item on our agenda, try to be somewhat useful at the time. So, Jim?
The second item is subdivision entry sign.
You know what? Maybe we'll just make it one right on the spot. Catch your breath. Oh, yeah. So let's catch your breath. But we'll go ahead and do the entryway signs. Is that a quick item, Jim?
We introduced it at planning commission. Do not have any regulations regarding subdivision entry signs.
You can project just a little bit better. Pick you up on that.
Sure. So currently, if somebody builds a residential subdivision, they can't put out a sign that says the Oaks or whatever to locate that place. The code actually does not allow freestanding signs in residential districts. So we're bringing forward a code amendment that would provide development regulations for that specific sign. If we don't care, it's the planning commission first to state who else. So provided those development regulations act. We'd like to discuss it
So that's going to apply to the commission first.
on November 1st.
And then in the code that we did before you is just a red line copy, so you just have to look for the red line changes. So likely we'll go to, it's going to the planning commission on the first, and then we'll come back to this committee, or is it going to go straight?
We can bring it back to like, they didn't have any comments on the red line. The October meeting, this month's meeting. It's pretty straightforward. Yeah, you can see what the planning commission gives us and we'll bring it back.
So that's the committee. You guys want to see that before it goes to the full
It
council?
doesn't sound very controversial. I'm trying to pull it. Jay, do you want to say something?
No, Scott needs the link. He can't find his either. Could somebody send it to him?
Rosie's on it. Oh, thank you. Could we somebody do a screen share? I'm not signed in. Joseph, you have any?
Yeah.
It doesn't sound very controversial because it sounds like we don't exist. Okay. So we probably won't.
So they are about 100 square feet. They are very specific development regulations to ensure that they are outside of the site triangle. They can't go within on separate tracks. They don't have to be on. So obviously, it's on separate track. Usually, it's that sort of thing. It's pretty limited in height. Currently, the proposal we have for you allows one sign for each entry to be one entry. We've got two signs. That's something that says early. Perhaps the language should strike that just to get to for any entry.
Question is, Brett, do you want to take it directly to the council after the planning commission?
Jay, do you want to study it in committee before it goes to full council?
I think you go to the full council. I don't see anything that's should be, how would you say it? Controversial.
I agree. Okay, yeah, it can go to full council. Okay.
Right, Josie, do you have the ability to change that TV to your presentation also?
Yes.
That would be easier for folks to see. Okay, so that's item 2. Let's backtrack to item 1. Ian, can you Ian, this is Ian Smith, Assistant City Engineer, and he's about to give you, I guess we could start to, how did we get here today and why? Because
Yeah.
Perry Avenue has been a narrow street forever.
For quite a while.
And I think we started with a complaint from someone and I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, for sure. So earlier this year, we had a comment from the public, and it came with some pictures as well. But it really, what it came down to, it was cars parking across from each other on Perry Avenue. And there's some measurements in there as well, pretty much restricting the width of the road down to 10 feet. The issue with the 10 feet, a normal car can get there, no big deal. But it was about life safety and emergency services. And so a typical fire truck is, a little bit north of 11 feet wide. And so when you have two cars parked adjacent to each other, across from each other on a street that's narrow, wouldn't allow for a fire truck to get through. So the concern from the public was, well, if there was emergency services that were needed along Perry Avenue, and we had this situation, which comes up every once in a while along Perry, we've had comments about it over the years, then they wouldn't be able to get there in time, or they'd have to drive around and lengthening the time it takes to get to that emergency. And so, based on that complaint, we discussed it amongst the city, what would be the best approach to make sure that life safety services could be provided to the citizens on Perry Avenue, but still, in some cases, meet the need of parking along there. I understand that some of the homes and residents there use the street for parking, and there's not much available otherwise for that. So we came up with a couple options on how to serve both the needs of the citizens that need parking and also serve the needs of the fire department and emergency services. So we came up with three options. We're looking for input from the public on. The first option would be no parking, which obviously doesn't do a very good job of serving the needs of people that can park, that need to park for their residences there. But the benefit of this one would be the life safety aspect of it. This is the greatest benefit that there wouldn't be any restrictions. A fire truck, any type of vehicle, that would provide life safety services such as ambulances and things like that would have full access along this road.
And that way it allows for two-way traffic as well as.
It's still restricting parking that's on private property. I know there's some areas there that have parking spots that are completely off public right of way. So in a situation that we have, we only restricting parking within the public right of way, it would be restricting it off that. So I know there's a couple areas that have some concrete pads that are on private property that people park on. That look like they might be parallel parking, but are indeed off public right of way. They still get those parking spots. And so just kind of some notes here. As far as what the minimum requirement for a fire lane is 12 feet. That's dictated by our code, the Florida Municipal Code. And so we maintain at least 12 feet of gravel surface, which would be either gravel or pavement. The fire department in this case would always prefer pavement. But it is all springs and how it is indicated. So the existing roadway, there's roughly 18 feet. So there is room for a narrow parking lane and that 12-foot fire lane along the existing roadway. And so that's our assumption that we at least have a single lane and parking available. So we'll go to the next slide here. And so in this case, this would be a one-way street. Just going from
This is on the TV here, right?
Yeah.
That's it, that's easy to see.
this would be from the east to west, coming off Bay Street there, and coming on the Perry Avenue in that direction. And that'd be one-way street with parking on one side. And so that one side of parking would be pretty continuous along Perry Avenue. And so we provide that parking element there. I know there might be some concerns about one-way traffic. You can only go one way along on Perry Avenue, and that can hold in some people's travel times, and how they get to and from their home to wherever they're going, like grocery shopping or going to work. So we are looking for input on all these things. So kind of lay these all out, and at the end, we kind of questions.
Jimmy can't hear you. Or, not everyone can hear
Okay, just need to project loud.
Project louder.
you. Yeah, talk to the speaker.
Yes, you don't have to talk to the speakers, speak louder.
Okay, so yeah, this is the one-way street option, which would allow for parking on one side of the street, but would restrict, train movements, going to the west along Third Avenue.
So you're entering off Tracy and exiting off the back.
Correct. Yeah, and I know that there was one, comment, this wouldn't make any changes to, the area that we have along Third Avenue, to restrict that. That would still remain, we're not proposing changes to that portion of the street there.
And Ian, the part of the problem too is that this bridge, like, goes directional, like underneath. Yeah, so you might be better off staying over this direction. Maybe, yeah, and this is project loud.
Okay, so we'll leave that, and we can come back to one-way street, if you guys have any questions, that'd be the third option. The next slide here. So this third option is what we consider a yield street. And so a yield street is when essentially you can have parking, to restrict it down to one lane, but still keep two-way traffic. Because there'd be intermittent areas where there's no parking on both sides of the street, where one car can pull over and then the other car can go by it. And so this would allow for parking on both sides of the street, but intermittently, so the kind of checkered pattern of that back and forth. This would be more consistent with what's out there right now, where, people park on both sides of the street depending on where they live, and where it's kind of available right now to park. So that's a little more consistent with that, but we would be, placing out no parking signs in particular areas, and so that we would be restricting that, so that at no time would there ever be parking on both sides of the street at the same location. So this provides the same benefit as the one-way, where you have an allowance for about the same amount of parking, but you do have this condition where you might have two cars coming up to each other, one will have to kind of pull over so the other can get by. So that'd be a third option. For in this case, and so, like I said at the beginning, there's gonna be no time where we'll restrict parking on private property, that will always be allowed. And then we will be having to put out no parking signs to do this restriction, and so it will be enforced. So in this case, if you are parking in the area that's labeled as no parking, parking enforcement will be able to give you a ticket on that. And this area of the city, this road will be included in our Portage Municipal Code as restricted parking. And so those are our three options right now. I'd like to kind of hear your input on that.
So just let me, if I got this right, to summarize. So
Yeah.
there's option one, which is no parking, which will be shot if everybody wanted. Option two is a one-way street, and we've got a contiguous lane of parking on one side of the street or the other. I don't know whether that's been decided yet or not. But we would have a parking lane that runs the entire length of the street, but only a one-way street, and envisioned running east to west. And then the third option is similar to what's there. It's a two-way street, but it would have a checkerboard approach, and only parking would be allowed where there's sufficient right-of-way to get our 12-foot road and a parking lane. And in areas where we can't leave that 12-foot and get whatever the width for 4 feet per car, for the parking lane, how wide is that?
At a very minimum, 6 feet, generally.
So we need so 6 and then the 12-foot lane.
Yeah, 18.
So anyway, we don't have 18 feet. We would have to put striping and signage for no parking. And that parking along the street would be a checkerboard. Wherever there's sufficient width, we would provide it, and where there isn't. So, yes.
Are you defining right of way as the paved road?
No, so the paved road is what we're using for whether or not we can have parking on it based on whether we can have sufficient 12 feet of pavement outside of the parking lane. The right of way extends beyond that. In most areas, I think it's a 40-foot right of way.
We're not proposing to widen the street at all to pave additional right of way. Challenge them, one side, many places with bulkheads, and then the other side, it's pretty steep going down the direction.
So, and there's certainly areas that have gravel shoulders on adjacent to it, so it won't be, you know, we're assuming that we're gonna be parked on the street, because that's how our code reads. But in some cases, you might be further off the street, just because there are gravel shoulders in certain areas. Than others. So, it's pretty standard.
So if I understand this correctly, option 3 is sort of how most of us live now. That people who don't have common sense that park in the middle of the road. So you're basically forcing for the people that are not parking in the right spot. Correct? Is that right, Karen?
Yeah, essentially-
99% of us are already doing the staggered parking thing. It's just, we're now gonna have to put this in place for the people that don't get it. Okay.
So it's gonna be a combination of no parking signs and striping on the road, right?
Yeah, to kind of delineate when no parking starts and stops would be the striping. In some cases, we fully discussed with our parking, our sign coordinator on this, on whether one, we want to do custom signs that say no parking for the next 30 feet, which you can do, but those are all custom type signs versus just no parking at any time signs. So it's either gonna be a combination of that. Yeah, it'll be either a combination of that or it'll be signs that would dictate how those are enforced. Yes.
You used to run street sweepers up and down Perry Ave. And Perry was much cleaner. I was told, quit running street sweepers up and down Perry because of the speed bumps. Speed bumps were put in to stop the high school speeders, which you didn't. When you blocked off Mitchell, that stopped the high school speeders. They got the speed bumps. So if you remove the speed bumps before you stripe it, then you could street sweep the street and keep it cleaner.
But there should be a reason the streets, that doesn't, that speed bumps don't have
Yeah,
anything.
speed humps are.
Well, that's what Public Works told me, but went down and wired.
Well,
We should be
worried about
we
you
should be-
raising the last little bit of asphalt that's there.
There's that. I don't know of any reason.
It wouldn't prevent it because they can.
That's, yeah, but that was what I was told, and I thought, okay.
Now, we have 2 street sweepers, there's no excuse.
This
It's
is
not-
We'll get it on this. Tony will take care of that. We'll take care of that one. Go ahead.
I was just wondering where you have not done the transition into the property off of the street. Right there's not a transition, it goes like this, right down to the property. Do you have that in your plans at all? To maybe utilize some of that, because some of it is right away. And if the transitions were nice and not a drop off, they could be used.
Yeah, we don't have any proposal to actually expand any drivable surfaces or anything in this case. This is strictly just a parking restriction.
We'd like to involve building retaining walls, yeah.
It would be walls and stormwater treatment, because anytime you increase the impervious surface to the road, you have to put in water quality treatment.
We're really looking at paint signs to try to solve this.
Well,
Right.
if it was a capacity issue, I own the Blue Goose Tavern and I own this steep hill, and if there was some ecology blocks put in there, there's 12 more spots that could be put on.
What Nick's pointing to though is the moment we add an inch of blacktop, we have to bring the whole street up to
I was gonna
water
ask-
quality
I was
standards.
gonna ask that question about 3 answers for everything.
Yeah.
It's out there, at the city knows.
Is there gonna be public involvement on where the parking is and lines are gonna be? There is some confusion with the public on what is right of way and what is not right of way. So if there's participation from people on the road, we can better understand what parking could be and not.
I think, you know, got some smart people in the engineering department, I think. I would assume this is we're gonna, if it's option 3, which I'm kind of hearing, then it's a checkerboard, we wanna make it as unchecked as possible, where we can get, stretches of parking all on one side or the other, I think we would try to do that. But there are places where we're gonna have to jump to one side of the street and the other. So it would be very, just be a lot of signs of striping if we went one stall here, one here, one here, one here, all the way down the street. If we try to maintain sections of parking on one side of the street. We can't do it all the way down to one. In that scenario, it's going to be a bit of a checkerboard, which is what you guys, what's going on right now. It's just not formalized. Excuse me.
Fire hydrants, how do they?
You can't park by that distance.
How?
What is that distance? 30 feet?
There's 15 on either side.
15 on your side.
So yeah, there are gonna be some restrictions on where you park based on, there's some intersections in there, driveways, things like that, will still be
We've got a
maintained.
fire hydrant right in front of our place. And also one of the speed bumps. And some parking there already. And 15 feet, summer, we don't use it for parking ordinarily. It's kind of as a speed. But this summer, we got that, we come for the summer. There were big trucks parking in the area adjoining the fire hydrant.
And if you would let us know about that, you would. You can't do that today. You have to stay with those distances. The fire department needs, in a fire, they need to hook up to that hydrant. It's blocked by vehicles. And that's a problem. But, part of this too is there's going to be an enforcement aspect of this that you have to have. We're going to be sending parking enforcement up there to make sure folks are complying.
Yeah, that's gonna be one aspect. Most residential neighborhoods, we don't present parking enforcement in because there's very few regulations. Like, there's definitely hydrants and, make sure people block driveways, but those are typically followed. And so there's not a lot of parking enforcement done in those areas. In this case, once we have parking restrictions on here, parking enforcement will be a little more regular in the area. That would take care of things like that, parking hydrants, and then now in this case, with parking restrictions in those areas as well.
So I think, did everybody get, was it a postcard, an email? How did we reach our letter? I think it'd be difficult to mail plan sets to all of you. But if we gather email addresses, as Ian puts this, and I'm assuming it's going to you or Christian who puts this map together.
Well, you can send a postcard with a link. We can have to know to look at it. Because I called and talked to somebody and they sent me the email.
Okay.
I think we need to figure out that site.
It was on the website, and then once we've got it done, send another mailing out. We've got our draft proposal out here, maybe give everybody 30 days to look at it and provide comment. And then thereafter, hopefully we'll force spring.
And to that, we'll do a lot of that in the field. It's gonna make more sense to be just more so working in the field up there. We'll mark the signs out where they're gonna go before we put them out there. So we'll be out there. Feel free to come talk to us. We're out there and marking things up. And once they're all marked up, make sure there's some time between putting the signs in, and you guys have a chance to kind of walk around and look at it.
So to talk about all 3 of those plans, it sounds like you kind of wanted to do 1 and 2. I think 1 is more than anybody needs. 2, I don't like the one-way street. We deal with driving up there. People are pretty respectful and courteous. But with the one-way street, the way it's drawn now, and parking, putting your driver's side against the wall, which means you're going to be parking 3 feet further out in the road than you need. So I think that whole
I cut the chase here. He doesn't want option 3.
I think option 3 is the best option. Okay. And that's shown because parking is the premium there. It's really.
And we see some, for those online, I see some hands raised, and we'll take your questions next, and then, kind of the consensus we're hearing in the room is option 3, but we'd like to hear from you folks online. So looks like, go ahead, and you simply identify yourself for the record when you get brought in. And you can just bring them all in. Ellen, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I am an adjacent property owner. I own some raw land on Bay Street. So my land fronts Bay Street and Lawrence. It's not clear to me in the discussions how many parking spots each of these different options is going to yield. Can somebody speak to that?
Yeah,
Because it seems to me if the one way doesn't yield a significant more parking spots, then it would be really disadvantageous.
I think it would probably provide slightly more because we've got something that's striped on the whole length of the road. It would provide a little more, not a lot. You still have fire hydrants, driveways, you know.
yeah. and-
Right, but I mean, there's a point of diminishing returns where a little more isn't worth, you know, the pain that it causes everybody to have to navigate on one-way streets, plus the increased traffic onto Lawrence, absorbing every car on and off Perry.
Sentiments were echoed here, that the majority of the folks here, or everyone here, was speaking for option 3, which is the checkerboard approach. And maintaining a two-way street.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have 3 options. I wouldn't say we have 3 good options, but we definitely have 3 options. But they're all in the sense of they solve the problem of the life safety issue. And that's really what we're trying to solve here. And still maintaining that parking is important. But as far as the original comment, like it is very valid. And the life safety issue takes precedence for the parking.
I'm just wondering why the second option has to be a one-way street, why we can't all park on one side of the street, but still have traffic going both ways. Like Bruce mentioned, everybody on the street about pulling off and waiting for somebody to pass. And I just
There's certain areas along Perry that have enough room to do that, but there's a lot of areas that do narrow down to the point where you would not be able to put 2 cars next to each other, past each other, and a parking lot. And so the concept of a yield street would be that it could still utilize use the narrow areas of no parking, and then as the passing areas, and then still be able to have the 2-way traffic.
So I'm not the engineer, but if we're making this it would be difficult to park one way in the traffic lane, you're probably putting it on the downhill side. Because otherwise you're, as you pointed out, you're trying to open your door, walls are all on one side.
Parking.
Yeah, so you're parking farther out in the roadway. So it's, you know, if we did, yeah, we have to build this initial both sides if we did 2 ways.
But you can let it pass throughout and pull up against the side, which is what we do.
Yeah.
It's a compromise.
We figure it out.
Figure it out. And I just, we had 2 more hands raised.
2 or 3.
There's another concern that we have with this too. I love the idea of option 3. That's the one we would all like, but there are 5 driveways on this street that would create quite a problem getting in and out of. One of them is ours. And we also have 2 trailers that we'd have to drive one way against the wrong way every now and then just to get them in and out of our streets here. So I haven't heard anybody talk about their driveways being hard to access from both directions or just one direction. So that's another concern we have there on that too. The other thing too is in ice, Guy Wetzel is a nightmare, and you'd have to do something about we all know what happens on Guy Wetzel and I, so we need to go the other way. That's another thing that needs to be considered in this as well. So these are a couple things that have been on our mind that I would like to share with you. And so I'd like to keep that in consideration too, but I love option 3. I think that would work great. We agree something needs to be done. We've had a hard time getting down our street in just a pickup truck before, so it'd be great to see something done. Thank you.
So Steve, in summary, what I heard is that your concerns with option 2, it'd be accessing your driveway because the angle of your driveway. And so you're advocating for option 3, is that what I heard?
Correct. It would be hard for us on a daily basis, but we also have 2 trailers we park up on our property here, and it would make it impossible to abide by law all the time with that, because we'd have to go against traffic every now and then. Just couldn't turn it around to go the other direction. So we're down at the end, Lawrence and Perry on that corner there. I'm sure you're familiar with that property, but anyhow, that's our concern with that. I mean, I would suppose the police would be kind to me and not write me a ticket because I had to get down my street with the trailer, and we don't take them out often, but on a daily basis, it's going to take quite a bit of doing. And I don't know if my wife can back up our driveway or not. I can, I don't think she could. So it'd be a real issue for us there too.
Okay, well, thank you. And I see another hand raised in Sean.
My vote's definitely for option 3 as well, just because I mean, the added traffic from a one-way and stuff, and obviously the no parking is a terrible idea. Private property, how far, you just have to have both tires off the road entirely for it to be considered private property?
You won't be able to, for parking enforcement, you've got to be beyond the stripe. Can't be in the roadway.
But the road doesn't have stripes, so are we going to stripe it?
Parking in private property. There's not a lot of parking enforcement typically doesn't go look for property corners to check for that. So usually there's a pretty clear line just based on, kind of, hey, look, this is the roadway, you're 10 feet off, and then there's that, or there's a clear delineation of, here's the concrete on the site. So it's just kind of a common sense procedure on that and that delineation.
But wouldn't we be striping this? It's gonna be pretty black and white.
What line would determine if it was on our property?
Okay, so you will be striping it. And then in that case, I am right on Lawrence, right before the corner. I'm the first house around the corner. So I've got a spot down below, and it's like 9 feet off the road. Is that still going to be usable? Or 8 feet is really all it is?
Change any of the road condition that's there. We're gonna put paint down, and you're just where the roadway is, you're just not gonna be able to park in the roadway anymore. We're gonna delineate 12 feet, and people can't park within that 12 feet. And then and what we're hearing is a checkerboard approach. So there'll be anything outside, on the other side of the fog line, you're gonna be fine. If your wheels are straddling the fog line, you're probably gonna get a ticket.
Okay, well, will we be able to do a little bit of checkering on Lawrence then to ensure that that's still fine?
What we're proposing is gonna go down Lawrence. It's just gonna be.
So we're only really going to be affecting Perry?
Yes.
The map showed around the corner.
Yeah,
Show around the corner. Okay.
And so- And so
That's the only,
the intent of using kind of being in the field and using this checkerboard approach would be those areas that are clearly off the roadway would be an area that would be allowed to be parking. So we wouldn't put a no parking sign right in front of an area that's just clearly outside the roadway. We kind of use that allowance there.
Okay, cool. And then my second question was, you said if you added an inch of asphalt, you have to get it all up to quality standards. What's wrong with getting it up to quality standards?
There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's just this project was not budgeted as far as the stormwater retrofit project. We're just trying to solve a problem that has come up.
Okay, cool.
Nothing wrong with that.
I know where Sean lives, and I think part of the question is, and if there are other people in the same situation, if they have a road ID or whatever comes down, I think they're asking how far back does that need to be cut to be safely off the road? beyond.
We're gonna go move your car off the road.
There's
You can't be, you just can't be straddling that line or having tires on that line. On the other side of the line.
Got it.
I've already had a couple, so it's, but,
And,
you're talking here about parking in front of garages and in front of driveways. And I don't know what code is around here, but I know several of the places on Perry. They have a garage door, but it's not for parking. They park on the street. You know, the garage is converted to a storeroom or a laundry or something else, but it's still a garage door. Or, and they're not, so they're parking in front of the garage door. And I know in places I've lived before that parking on the street in front of the garage door was not allowed, even if you didn't use your garage and you didn't use it. What is the code around here?
Yeah, no, it's generally, it's kind of, we will ticket folks if they are parking in front of garages, we complain to the owners.
So
and
Mr.
mainly,
Sweeney parks in front of your garage door and you complain to us.
it's mainly that.
We're gonna write Mr. Sweeney a ticket.
Well, again, I don't have it, I was just asking.
But if you,
Parking in front of garage doors.
we're not gonna
Well,
have a
see,
problem.
I got asked once for parking in front of my own garage.
No, it's just, there
It's
are,
not even in this state, so I just wondered what the rules were in this state, because it did talk about it. Okay.
and where, and this doesn't apply on your guys' street because you don't have formal sidewalks, but where you get yourself in trouble is that car that the driveway isn't long enough to fit the car in, and then the car is blocking the sidewalk, and then we have an American Disabilities Act violations. We've got to be able to keep the sidewalk clear, because that is a problem here.
So the code is there to not allow parking in front of driveways, but it's garages and things like that, but it's generally used as a sense of, hey, my neighbor driveway, get out.
Go ahead, Scott.
Well, I don't know how many more people want to speak or how many people want to speak again, and I presume the chair has been handed over to Fred. But I just wanted to do a time check. It's 5:15 and we have 4 more issues to talk about. Again, I don't want to cut anybody off that hasn't had a chance to speak, but I did want to move us along.
The most important item we've got on the agenda.
We haven't spoken yet. 303 Perry, Dawn.
Go ahead, Don.
For us, a one-way street, we wouldn't be able to park and get out of the car as the previous person spoke. And I have similar concerns with the fact of Guy Wetzel closes on that one end because it's a sheet of ice. So the alternated parking, basically sharing the roadway with people being ticketed if they're parked incorrectly. And typically the majority of us park correctly and or with thought of others. It's just very few people that literally park sideways or kitty corner at times where a normal car can't get through. So that's, I guess, our part in it. So option 3.
So it's a handful of people causing this problem. And as Scott, Councilmember Diener, you know, I think it, hands down, and we're hearing, but we've got to do a little bit more design work to lay out where that parking is.
Yeah.
So, you know, and we'll do that work in the next month or 2, I would assume. And then we'll post that on our website, and then we'll send another mailer out to everybody, allow you guys to see what we've drawn up, and how it affects you and whether you've got comments, and we'll probably give it 30 days from when we post it and send you guys that link. And then we're going to begin to weather, and probably won't be doing any striping, but at least we'll have your input.
So this will be next July.
Yeah, it could be spring, realistically. Yes, ma'am.
What about an on-site, once you get to that, you get your public input and all of that, doing it on-site, so that we can physically see. But I think that might be really effective.
Yeah, we'll definitely have it marked out in the field, and whether we'll do a kind of a meeting out there or it'll just be, hey, we have it marked out, provide your comments the next 2 weeks. your thoughts are on that. Ultimately, you're the end user of the street. You want to make sure that meets your needs, but also meets that life safety.
You
aspect.
should be here, so people can ask questions.
Oh.
Respond.
So maybe it's that is we do the drawing and then we do mark up the street and then we send everybody like, hey, you know, here's the map, here's the, I mean, it's gonna be pretty clear. Can't park in front of the fire hydrant, can't block the driveways, so on and so forth. But, you know, before the end of the year, I think we should give at least the map. Draw up those things. That we listed.
We'd like to ask people to, sorry for interrupting, to also not park on the water meters. That's, yeah, on top of it. Even though we have water, so there's still.
There are too many places they can't park on it. I don't want to two parking places.
Well,
They are designed to be driven on.
are they?
Certain times.
So it's a big truck.
I think Chris and Jay wanted to speak.
So Chris Hammer, go ahead.
Okay, well, the mayor, you're right about you can't park on a fog line. But I'm not sure, Ian, when you designed the signing and the striping, were you considering actually using striping or just signage? Did you think that would be adequate? I just want to make that clear, is that I'm not sure that discussion was entirely accurate in this discussion.
Yeah, I wasn't anticipating having a fog line striping for the roadway.
You were not, okay. I was thinking of putting a line on the road.
Yeah, so in general, it'd be either, you know, delineate spots for parking or just signage. So it'd be either sign and striping, but not a fog line.
So why wouldn't we want to strike?
It's just more maintenance. So you can put out no parking anywhere, except then it'll say you can park between these signs, and it does the same thing without having to do pavement marking. It's just more maintenance intensive.
So the fog line would essentially be kind of weaving along the roadway, the way we have it lined out, versus the parking. We can actually do that with the cars and drivers. So it's just make it better for us.
So it sounds like we're just gonna have signage, but around a fire hydrant.
Fire hydrants are, you're supposed to follow the rules regardless.
Supposed to follow rules.
Yeah, there's no, we typically don't strike every or sign every fire hydrant. It's just a rule of the road.
Jay Rosepepe, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. It sounds like we're narrowing down our focus on this issue, and I like where we're going. What I wanted to say to everybody that's there and then online is thank you for your comments and coming to the meeting, because it's getting participation sometimes tough, and this has certainly helped us with making a decision. So thank you.
I'd like to thank everybody too. I know that it's taking valuable time, and thank you for speaking up about your concerns.
Welcome to stay. We've got riveting stuff.
We got a sheet going around for details if you want to be.
It sounds like we have your addresses, and we'll do that. We said saying the distribution.
Yeah, I think, I don't know how many people are online, so that they're.
So Fred, are we on item number 2?
Sorry, what?
Where are we in the agenda?
We're on item 3, annual housekeeping.
Okay. I can't always hear what people are saying. Did we scrap number 2?
We started with number 2 at the very beginning.
Okay.
Scott, we moved it to council. There really wasn't anything that was controversial in it.
Okay.
We're just going to planning commission and then on the full council.
Okay.
Occasionally, like on Perry, like we've done. Very
Jim, do you want to go ahead and the annual housekeeping?
Can we have everybody go outside and have conversations so that we
We have one more
So
person
the-
from
the issue
attendees
is-
that has their hand raised, and I'm sure it's probably related to. So I'm gonna have to.
Okay. Is there another comment? You don't see your hand yet.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I live on Lawrence. My concern is there is one household that always blocks the road at the two stop signs. It is on Lawrence, right at the stop sign on the right before you turn onto Perry, and they're always parking there. They park multiple vehicles on the street and they block the whole street. And you cannot get around them until they move their cars, and they take their time about moving them.
So hopefully when we have parking restrictions, the problem a lot of times is that if we don't have specific parking restrictions in there, then it's hard for us to enforce any violations of parking. And
Okay.
so hopefully adding this in would solve that issue.
Okay,
If not, it sounds like we may want to call parking enforcement.
Yeah, you can also call in, you can call the general public works line, or.
we would be calling probably every day.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I'll chat with enforcement. I think we recently got new parking enforcement, so
Okay,
chat with them on issues that are there and see if we can get that resolved. Both with this new improvement and also just in the existing conditions.
okay.
If there's a safety issue, I would probably be personally calling every day. If we're in my neighborhood. Okay, so we want to go on to item B.
Sure. Annual housekeeping. Is it you need a list of errors, omissions, type of errors like that in municipal code, and in September list for some code revisions. So what was provided to you, how the existing code proposed. They are mostly minor in nature. Again, like last year neglected to include this overlay district or
You're gonna have to speak a little bit louder. I'm sorry.
You close that door.
I tend to speak quietly. I apologize.
Okay.
So we're inserting McCormick Village overlay district into the adopted districts, things of this nature. There's some things in the design standards. Currently, if you have a sidewalk abutting a curb and you have perpendicular or angled parking adjacent to it, our design standards require that the abutting sidewalk be at least, or walkway be at least 7 feet wide. It does not take into consideration wheel stops, and that is actually a provision in our parking section, our off-street parking section, that says, look, you can use wheel stops and you can reduce the size of the stall. And so this amendment just clarifies that if you use a wheel stop, then you can use a 5 foot wide walkway adjacent to perpendicular or so it's things like that. There's some words in there like design standards. There's a word all. So we struck because it just doesn't make sense. Townhome section clarified that a townhome building type must be at least 3 units. Currently in the R2 district, you're limited to up to 4 townhomes units in that building type. And everywhere in the code, it says 3 to 4 units. In one section, it actually says 2, so we're changing it to 3. And that's really what these code revisions are. They're just kind of cleaning up some inconsistencies. There's some inconsistencies with the subdivision design standards and public works standards. Ian and I worked together on that to make sure that those 2 documents are consistent with one another. Overall, that's what the intent of this ordinance is. We introduced it to the plan commission in October. They recommended that we have a public hearing on November 1st. We have provided notice of hearing, and we are giving it to the land use committee to make comment prior to that. We anticipate bringing this to the city council in December.
Are we adding the massage parlor or was it already there?
Massage parlor, it's an interesting one. We had an applicant try to say that a massage parlor was an office use. And so we had to issue a director's interpretation that put massage parlor in personal service, thank you. And so we're just clarifying that we actually do a lot of massage parlor applications.
I'm just looking for on my phone. This does.
But I think the main question is whether you'd like to see this again at land use committee before the council meeting, or whether, so,
I don't know if I heard all of the question, but was it whether we want to see this again?
Yes.
I'm comfortable with, I'm comfortable with it moving forward. Kudos on the wheel stop and walkway issue. That's a real bane of sidewalk users, particularly when people back in and they have hitches and so on. I did have a question on 2100 070, the cul-de-sac streets width reduction. That's just reflecting less wide standards versus correcting a Scrivener's. Is that what I'm understanding? We've adopted standards that are not quite as wide as they once were.
Right, so it's just creating local standards in our.
Yeah, okay. That's the only clarification I wanted to make, and I understand the balance of them, then I'm good with it.
Okay, yeah, we're okay with going to the full council.
all right, that's the next one.
Meeting purpose, yes.
So today we met in person, obviously, because we had some public discussion, but is our preference still to have these meetings online going forward, or do you want to switch to in person?
Can I ask a question? Or is there still one more issue after this, the temporary signage?
Yes.
Okay. I was wondering if we wanted to move the discussion about meeting preference and in person and all that to the very end, if that's okay.
Oh, okay, yeah, we can do that.
All right.
Yeah, I actually thought that the temporary signage would be a longer discussion.
Oh.
I don't know how it would be though.
Let's do the meeting preference first.
Okay, sure.
Right.
Well,
Like 2 cents. I think some of the other committees are meeting in person. I think you should still offer this Zoom. It is very difficult for some people to be online and they don't have this year. And from you guys hearing us, because not everybody projects the same way, you know, I'm not saying that occasionally you can't attend, you know, virtually, but it makes for a much better meeting when we meet in person.
so I'll go ahead and second, I think what Jay is going to say too, is I don't find the quality of the meeting to be nearly as effective as when I'm in person. I had difficulty hearing people. There was when people talk over people, I couldn't make out anything. You're right. It has a lot to do with projection. I, for one, will be attending the balance of these meetings in person, unless I'm, you know, sick and shouldn't be with everybody. But I didn't find this to be as clean as I thought it might be, and so I will be there. I'd like to see us attend in person. That's my view. This was a good experience for me to hear it from the chambers, which I haven't done before. And Jay remarks that it was better when he was in Paris.
This was very frustrating. The problem for me sometimes is trying to get back in time to a 4:30 meeting. 5 o'clock always works a little bit better from time wise, but I know it doesn't work well for everybody else's schedule. So I will commit to trying to make it in person. But boy, the sound was horrible today. I don't know what it was like at our meeting last night since it's in the same format, but it was pretty bad.
The people in the audience, or was it us? that you couldn't hear?
You guys at the table.
The
Very-
audience
very garbled.
surprisingly, go ahead, Jay.
No, it's very garbled, hearing people, and I think, sometimes it's the range or, that people speak at. Again, Mayor, you were talking last night about asking people to speak up. I think in that format, we're at the tables, it's much different than what we pick up on the dais, because like I said, when I was in France, I could hear everybody perfectly. Today is very challenging.
Yeah, and surprisingly, the audience I could hear better than staff.
I would just like to say that a lot of the committee meetings will not have an audience, and I believe that the committee meeting is completely online. The sound is not an issue. Some committees, like at the Economic Development and Tourism, will be still online. It is more convenient. I actually would, as long as it's not a hybrid meeting with the public, I would probably prefer online.
I'm sorry, you'd prefer what, Fred?
I would prefer an online meeting.
Oh,
I would just, either it's all virtual or it's all in person with the committee. And if it's all in person, that we're offering this Zoom link, I know that it's not, and we can do better. We left this table too big. We needed to condense this, get this all a little bit closer together. Would have helped, and it's just important. I think you can probably hear me just fine.
Yes.
yes.
Yeah. Because, I'm projecting. If I get over here and I start talking like some council members that don't talk very loud, I know that you guys can't hear me, but these guys can hear me just fine.
Well, and I'll just remark that it seemed the closer you are to the camera, the harder it was for me to understand what was being said.
The gentleman that talked first when we were talking about the Perry Avenue one, Mr. Smith, that's you with the beard, right?
Right.
Right. When you turned your head to look at the screen,
Yeah.
you were
Lost
just
you.
couldn't understand a thing you were saying. Might as well been in a different
Yeah.
country.
I caught myself a couple of times doing that, and I was looking and I realized that the mic's right up here and.
Right.
Yeah. So, circling back, I believe in person is the way to go. Unless staff and others disagree. Well, I'd like to hear from staff as well. I mean, I know that they might feel just as comfortable sitting here or in their office, but
I think that from a staff perspective, we're sometimes making special trips into the office to attend these meetings. And so at DCD, we currently have more people than we have desks. We have to have an open schedule in the office. So the land use committee date is sort of dictating who's in the office when, as opposed to trying to get people who are working on the same projects together at the same time. So from a staff perspective, I would greatly prefer online, unless we need to have with the public, in which case let's do it all in the room. But I think we should aim for online, and if we have a special circumstance, we do it in person, and we can make special arrangements to make sure everyone's here.
Yeah, I think we needed to do a better job communicating, because it didn't dawn on me till about noon today that we had, what was on the, well, I didn't look at the agenda. When I looked at the agenda, I went, oh yeah, we have the pick folks from Perry Avenue. And so then I came in and went into Tony's office at Lot 4 and said, hey, who's gonna be upstairs presenting? And Tony said, we're presenting. So, we need a little better communication amongst all of us. So when we know we're gonna have the public here, I think we definitely all need to be here so that we can all hear the same thing, and have the same level of communication. I don't have a problem if you guys want to go on virtual. I think it's probably even better for presenting things and to see them on a screen, that works a little bit better. But I think you gotta be one way or the other as far as the committee and staff.
The hybrid doesn't work for me.
I would agree with you, Rob. I think I was under the impression that this in-person was being driven by staff. But in that we have people that may attend the kind of rare meeting, I would agree that let's go back to online. I think that helps staff with their lives and work schedules, and it has worked pretty good online as well. But knowing if we're going to have a popular agenda item or a stacked meeting, then maybe we come in person for those. So that's my vote.
How are you going to know when you have something, when people are going to be at in person? I hate to say it, something that could be innocuous that we would think nobody would show up for. What happens if somebody shows up at City Hall?
Yeah, we haven't had many people show up for these.
No, I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying the one person that does, or two people,
Yeah.
I think we do them a disservice. I think we go one way I think we need to go one way or the other. And then if people want to join us online, like several people did tonight, that's fine, or we do it in person.
Well, I think Rob is saying, and maybe I'm not understanding what you're saying, Jay, but I think what Rob is saying is if we go online, nobody can show up at City Hall. They have to go online.
It's when we have like tonight's meeting, we mailed postcards or letters to people inviting them here tonight.
Okay, I missed that part.
And we had kind of a special situation because of Perry. Time to time. We had parking in McCormick here a while back, and there could be, the issues come up from time to time. But we're gonna want to invite people to come and have interaction with us. And in those situations, all of us need to be here, is what I'm
Okay,
saying.
Mayor, Mayor, I didn't understand that people had been invited. I missed that part. I apologize. And then I would concur that we go online unless we have a, special, for lack of a better word, special occasion.
And Jay and Scott, I didn't know there would be members of the public here until I saw them in the hallway. I wasn't aware that a mailing had gone out, so I just came because I live 2 blocks away. I almost knew it as well.
All right. Sound like we nailed that one.
Fucking after you guys. Okay. Guys, I don't know.
Yeah, now we're on to temporary signage.
Well, I'll hang up that.
And I can give a brief summary of this. When we adopted our sign code a number of years ago, there were content neutral restrictions in place from the Supreme Court that came out in 2014 or 2015. Since then, there have been subsequent appeals court level decisions that have sort of opened the door for distinguishing between commercial and non-commercial speech sign regulations. And as part of our code that we wrote, when we wrote the new sign code, we were trying to be 100% content neutral. And we've seen a major proliferation of temporary signs in the right of way, some of which are political or, are protected speech, some of which are commercial, like the "We Buy Houses" signs or pressure washing or landscape services. And they're just plastering all of our intersections with commercial messaging, and then the signs fall apart and end up on the ground. And so Jim and I worked on a draft temporary sign code, and then subsequently he and Josie have taken that to the planning commission, and they are working on code. And Jim, do you want to kind of walk them through the current alternatives?
Yeah, so what the planning commission kind of gave us direction on was to come up with a permitting system, for temporary signage. So it would be entirely free, but it's essentially a sticker system where if you want to place a temporary sign, come down to DCD, put the sticker on it, place it out in the right of way. We've developed some restrictions on exactly where those signs can be placed. For instance, in the draft, and we're going to discuss this with the planning commission in November. But if there's no sidewalk, you would not be able to place a temporary sign there. The sticker would be valid for a certain time, which has not been yet determined. But that would allow code enforcement to go pull those signs, you know, if they're past the time lapsing or if they're dilapidated. But it would give them the ability to remove the signs. And so Nick touched on commercial and political speech. Planning Commission, their direction really was for all temporary signage so that we avoid
Their direction was what? I'm sorry, say that again.
to have it apply to any temporary signage. So regardless of political or commercial, or, you know, a garage sale, whatever it may be, that all of this would be regulated under that temporary signage. And so that essentially, we can avoid any content issues if that's ever the case. So we plan to have an additional discussion with the Planning Commission in November. We have some very rough code that we will share with them. We'd certainly like to bring it back to the committee for additional discussion.
So the planning commission didn't distinguish between commercial and non-commercial speech.
No, they essentially said temporary sign. And so that was in an effort to avoid the content, you know, evaluating the sign based on content of it. So it's content neutral, it's just a temporary sign, could be removed, you know, inside triangle, or right now you can remove it if it's on a utility pole or a tree or anything like that. But if it's in the right of way, between back of curb and the property line, anybody can put that out there without a permit. And the code actually reads that once it becomes dilapidated, whoever placed the sign is responsible for removing the sign. So they can't place it in medians, they can't place it in roundabouts currently. We're keeping all of the current language, but based on the direction the planning commission gave us, we're providing an avenue to create a permitting system free of charge, and allow code enforcement to pull those signs.
And I would just add, this really came out of a case law update that a bunch of the planning staff attended earlier this summer. So the attorney who was presenting that provided several examples of the different approaches that are being used with temporary signage. So some cities are moving to distinguish between commercial and non-commercial, and they're just prohibiting commercial speech, but still allowing non-commercial speech. Other cities have taken the approach that the planning commission is investigating right now, which is this permitting approach where it's still content neutral, but you have to get the permit. And so I think there are alternatives and pros and cons, different people risks with each approach. We're just looking for the best outcome for the city. I drove around before this went to the planning commission, and I took pictures of temporary signs all over the city. And just the sheer number of them, I mean, it was well over 150 commercial signs at that particular time, plus political signs. And they're just at every intersection. And it's really shocking when you actually go right down.
So, Nick, my concern is, one, staff time for another permit. Two, has the code enforcement person having to check out, is this sign permitted, is it not permitted, and the volume of work. I think banning the commercial advertisement is cleaner and just easier, and the code enforcement person just drives around, picks all those up. The political signs happen for, they're supposed to, I think we can limit them to 6.
I we can't.
But we could.
We could have limits on non-commercial speech, so as long as it's opposed uniformly.
Yeah, so the political signs, as we used to do in our code, it was 60 or 90 days, I think it was 60 days from the election. Now, you know, it gets blurry when you know, you've got a primary, so they're really, you know, they're around for a year, but then they're gone.
Well, you can't call them political signs. I would say non-commercial speech.
Yeah.
So that means if a church puts up signs about services, you know,
So maybe they can only be up for a period of time.
but you have primary, so it's not just November, it's primary season, there's other things that go on the ballot. So it really is kind of, it's not quite year round, but it's
Set
like
the,
Perry Avenue option three.
yeah, so set the political signs aside. I mean, there's a ton of commercial advertisement happening up, and that's, I don't like any of it, but I know we can't, limits free speech. But we can definitely stop the commercial advertisements out there. You know, roof cleaning, I'll buy your house, and so on and so forth. I mean, that's pretty straightforward, and code enforcement just drives around and picks them up. It isn't having to look at, we're not processing an application, we're not managing a database.
And so Josie came up with this idea, which I thought was pretty brilliant, but if we did a sticker system, and it's just super generic review, I mean, anybody can do it in the front, it's just.
It's got to say that put a sticker on it.
It's essentially, that's it, they can fit in this box, right? So you just place the sign in the box, it's that, okay, here you go, it's like a 2x2 color coded sticker that's similar to like a park tab, right? And so then the code enforcement officer will go by and say, hey, well, that sticker is red, it's out here. Problem is, if we have a time limit, there's some way that we, when it goes in the ground, without some sort of documentation.
Well, your color code, you know, so for this block of time, or this month, we're gonna issue orange stickers. And 2 months from now, if it's 60 days, orange stickers have to go away.
Right, and so if we don't have that sticker or something like that on there, there's no way
Yeah.
that code enforcement.
Now I'm understanding how you can manage it. I'm less concerned with it.
I don't think you need an actual application or anything like that. And then there's a lot of sticker on it.
Something that the clerk and staff can do.
That's kind of what I envision how you live.
Right. You can do
I think Scott and then Josie wanted to speak.
Well, let Josie go first, because maybe that'll help inform on any other questions I might have.
I'll just add that the sticker system, the way that it's written in the draft code also includes an expiration date too. So it's just very clear to the person putting the sign up, but also to the code enforcement officer.
I like Jim's scenario though, because the code enforcement person isn't gonna pull over to read the date written on the sticker.
Right, it would be a color with the date. So
Color, yeah.
it would be both.
And so the month of October, we pumpkin orange.
And also, Mayor, to comment on your comment about number of signage. I did see examples of other cities that did put amount limits to signs, and so.
The number of signs the candidate put up.
Correct.
Wow.
Never do that. Then we're gonna have to track how many are out there, right? And it's just added.
I feel like that's the list right now.
Anyway, so we're really still in the development stage of this code provision, and I think we'll have more to report on when we come back at our next meeting once the planning commission.
Scott, do you want to go now?
Sure. So I support what the mayor had to say. I'm not a big fan of the signs. I think they can make the community look pretty tacky, but I understand there's a constitutional issue here. I'd like us to lean into managing these kinds of signs as best we can. I'm not sure it should be without fee. I think there should be some skin in the game that also helps pay for the time of both staff and code compliance. Also, if we're looking at a sticker approach, then maybe it makes sense to have a sticker that you could put on the front left corner of a sign so that you can see it as you drive by rather than looking back behind a sign. So those are my comments. I'll say I'm not a fan of some of the signs that we see, and I get that some of those wouldn't be allowed anyways. But a propagation of these signs, and we've seen it, can really change the character of a community. So that's what I have to say. I would like to see the copy that goes to the planning commission as well.
We will send that, the copy when we send out the planning commission.
Thank you very much.
Jay, did you have?
Yes, I'd kind of like to mirror what Scott said, as we see a little bit more down the road. It's nice that we're starting to think about how we're going to rein this in. I also have, not for necessarily next meeting. I know we're getting short on time here, but I'd like to put in the parking lot for us to go back to about discussion about fireworks. We kind of had that, and I'd like to make sure we keep that on the agenda, even if it's in a parking lot. And that's all I have for this meeting.
Let's raise fireworks as an issue, not just a parking lot. Let's talk about it at the next meeting. Thank you, Jay.
I love the sticker idea. I'm just concerned about counterfeit stickers and the cost of stickers and the cost of staff. But I like the idea in general. It'll be interesting to see how it works through.
Can we charge a fee?
Yeah.
So $1 sticker?
I think we need to figure out how much stickers cost.
Are they bringing the sign in, or how do we know what we're putting a sticker on and whether that meets the, for example, size limits of a sign?
Jim spoke to that. We'll
Okay.
have a size limit. They have to bring the sign in
They have to bring the sign in. Okay.
to the side.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
You're online and we're in person.
We've come up with a system where we can do a very quick review just on size, material, and slap a sticker on it and send them out the door.
Okay.
Sure, more to follow on this one.
Great, well, that was our last item. Is there anything for the good of the order? Actually, Scott, you can call the meeting.
What's that? Call the meeting? All right, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.